I was 63 years old when my father reduced my entire life to a single, humiliating dollar. The conference room at Lawson & Finch smelled like old leather and broken promises. I sat at that polished mahogany table while my half-brother Kester Langford lounged across from me with a grin that made my stomach turn. The lawyer, Atticus Bramble, adjusted his glasses and opened the envelope. His voice was steady as he read the line that shattered me. To my daughter, Janetta Hale, I leave the sum of $1. The room went silent, then Kester laughed. It was a sharp, satisfied sound that cut straight through my chest. Guess Daddy finally figured out what you were worth, he sneered. Heat surged up my throat. Shame, rage, a betrayal so deep it felt like my father reached out from his grave just to slap me across the face. Atticus looked at me strangely, almost apologetically, but he didn't say anything. I forced my voice to stay steady. Read the rest, but the rest only confirmed the nightmare. Kester inherited the house, the land, the accounts, the business. Everything except that single dollar. I sat there trembling, trying to understand what I had done so wrong that my own father erased me from his life. Kester stood up and stretched like he'd just won the lottery. Well, I guess that's that, he said, smirking at me. Try not to spend it all in one place, sis. I wanted to scream at him, but my throat felt like it was closing. Atticus closed the folder slowly, then he looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. It wasn't pity, it was something else, something urgent. Janetta, he said quietly, I need you to stay behind. Alone. Kester's smirk faded. What? Why does she get special treatment? Atticus didn't look at him. It's a legal matter. You can wait outside. Kester huffed and grabbed his coat. Whatever. Enjoy your dollar, Janetta. He walked out, slamming the door behind him. As soon as he was gone, Atticus stood up and locked the door. My heart started pounding. Atticus, what's going on? I asked. He pulled out a second envelope from his briefcase. This one was old and yellowed around the edges. The envelope had my father's handwriting slashed across the front, to be opened only in the presence of my daughter, Janetta. Not to be disclosed to Kester Langford under any circumstances. My hands shook as I stared at it. What is this? I whispered. Atticus slid it toward me. This was your father's real instruction. My pulse pounded in my ears. Why wasn't this part of the will? Atticus hesitated. Because your father gave me explicit orders to delay. To wait for what he called a moment of truth. He reached into his briefcase again and pulled out something I hadn't seen in decades. A microcassette recorder. One of those old handheld ones people used before smartphones existed. All these years, Atticus said, I've protected something your father left for you. Something he said would make sense when the vultures circle. My breath caught in my throat. Kester, I whispered. Atticus nodded grimly. He pressed play. Static filled the room. Then my father's voice came through, younger and stronger than I remembered. Janetta, if you're hearing this, it means the danger I feared has finally reached you. I clutched the arms of my chair as my father's voice continued. I need you to listen closely, Janetta. Because if Kester gets control of everything, the consequences will be far worse than money. My stomach dropped. Atticus watched me carefully as the recording played. There is something I discovered in 1998, something that put your safety at risk. I never told you because I knew you'd run toward danger instead of away from it. I gripped the table. What danger? I whispered. The tape continued. Atticus knows the documents. He knows the names. And he knows what Kester is trying to hide. My mind raced. What documents? What names? My father's voice grew heavier with urgency. If I die unexpectedly, if anything seems unusual, look to Kester first. He has ties to men who would do anything to protect their interests. Every hair on my arms stood up. Men? Interests? My father was never dramatic. If he said someone was dangerous, he meant it. The tape clicked off suddenly. Atticus exhaled shakily. That isn't the full recording, he said. It cuts there. But there's more. My hands trembled. Play the rest. Atticus shook his head. Not yet. We have to leave this office first. Why? I asked. Because the next part, he said, lowering his voice, names a living person. Someone who would do anything to keep that recording buried. My heart pounded against my ribs. Someone alive right now was tied to my father's warning. Atticus wanted to move before we played the second half of the tape because he feared we were being watched. He insisted we leave through the back exit of the building. Why are we sneaking out? I asked, clutching my purse tightly. Because, he whispered, for the last 3 weeks someone has been watching my office, waiting for this we're reading. My breath caught in my throat. He stepped outside first, scanning the alley carefully. Is this connected to whatever my father found? I asked. I believe so, he whispered. We reached his car, a dark green Buick. I was just pulling the door open when he froze. A black SUV sat across the street with tinted windows and its engine running. Atticus muttered something under his breath. What? Who is that? I asked. He didn't answer. He just ushered me quickly into the car. As he pulled out of the alley, the SUV eased forward too. It was following us. My heart hammered as I looked back through the rear window. Atticus, I whispered, who did my father name in that recording? He didn't blink. Someone with a lot to lose if you see the documents he left behind. The SUV switched lanes whenever we did. Atticus, tell me the name. He inhaled shakily. It was someone we both know. He swallowed hard. And someone who knows you're about to find out the truth. As the SUV's headlights flashed in my mirror, I felt a cold certainty settle inside me. Whoever my father warned me about, whoever was named in the second half of that tape, was still out there. And they knew exactly where we were headed next. Atticus sped through the outskirts of town until we reached an isolated diner just past Miller's Crossing. It was public enough to be safe but quiet enough to talk. Inside, he chose a corner booth facing the entrance. I slid in across from him with my pulse racing. The SUV parked outside, its driver never stepping out. Atticus placed the microcassette recorder on the table between us. Janetta, before I play the rest, I need to ask you something. I frowned. What? Do you remember the summer of 1998? When your father suddenly stopped speaking to a certain man? A chill crept down my back. Yes, I remembered. We all remembered. That was the summer my father cut ties with Latham Creedmoor, the charming, respected businessman who owned half the properties in our county. Latham, who had always treated me like family. Latham, who had suddenly vanished from our lives without explanation. I stared at Atticus. What about him? Atticus pressed play. My father's voice returned, sharper this time. More urgent. Janetta, if Atticus is playing this, then it means Latham Creedmoor is still alive and still dangerous. And if he knows you're looking into this, he will come for you next. My breath left my body. Latham, the man I trusted, the man who disappeared, the man my father feared. The tape continued. He's not who you think he is. And neither is Kester. I grabbed Atticus's wrist. What does Latham have to do with Kester? Atticus swallowed hard. Everything, Janetta, absolutely everything. My world tilted sideways. If Latham Creedmoor and Kester were connected, then my father didn't leave me $1 out of cruelty. He left me $1 to keep me alive long enough to uncover what they did. Atticus reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out a manila folder. Your father left this with me 27 years ago. He made me swear I wouldn't give it to you unless certain conditions were met. He slid the folder across the table. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were bank statements, property deeds, and photographs. All of them linked Kester to Latham Creedmoor. Payments, transfers, secret meetings. They've been working together for decades, Atticus said quietly. And your father discovered it all. I stared at the documents, my mind reeling. What were they doing? Atticus's expression darkened. That's what the next recording will tell you. Before Atticus could reach for the recorder again, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Stop digging or you'll regret it. My hands went cold. I showed Atticus the screen. His face paled. That's not a coincidence, he said. Someone knows we're here. I looked out the window at the black SUV. The driver was still sitting there, watching us. Atticus, I need to know the truth. All of it, right now. He nodded slowly and pulled out another cassette tape. This one was smaller and unlabeled. Your father recorded this separately. He called it his insurance policy. He loaded it into the player and pressed play. My father's voice came through again, but this time it was strained. Tired. Janetta, what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about your family. About your mother. About yourself. My throat tightened. In 1998, I discovered something that Latham Creedmoor had been hiding for years. Something that involved your mother's death. My vision blurred. Involved my mother's death? She died when I was 12. Everyone said it was an accident. The tape continued. Your mother didn't fall down the cellar steps. She was pushed. I gasped. My hands flew to my mouth. Atticus reached across the table, but I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. She was pushed, my father repeated, by someone who wanted to keep her quiet. Someone who knew she had discovered the truth about Latham. My mind spun. My mother had been murdered? All these years, I thought it was an accident. All these years, I grieved her death as a tragedy, not a crime. Who? I choked out. Who pushed her? The tape crackled. My father's voice grew quieter. I couldn't prove it at the time. But I know who was there that night. And I know who gave the order. He paused. It was Latham Creedmoor, and the person who helped him was your Uncle Ferris. My stomach twisted violently. Uncle Ferris? My mother's gentle brother? The man who taught me to fish? The man who cried the hardest at her funeral? No, I whispered. No, that can't be true. But the tape kept playing. And there was someone else with them. Someone younger. Someone Latham was already grooming. My father's voice cracked. It was Kester. The world stopped. I couldn't hear anything except the ringing in my ears. Kester was there the night my mother died? Kester, who was only 17 at the time. He didn't understand what he was doing, my father continued. Latham had already gotten inside his head, already turned him into a weapon. But he was there, and he helped them cover it up. Atticus turned off the recorder. I sat there, numb, staring at the table. Janetta, Atticus said gently, I'm so sorry. I couldn't speak, I couldn't think. Everything I knew about my family was a lie. My mother was murdered, my uncle was involved, and Kester, my own half-brother, had been part of it. Atticus's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face went white. It's Kester, he whispered. He's calling from Latham Creedmoor's house. My blood turned to ice. Answer it, I said. Atticus put the phone on speaker. Kester, he said cautiously. A ragged breath crackled through the line. Atticus, Janetta, I went to Latham's. I demanded answers. My stomach twisted. What happened? I asked softly. He told me the truth. Kester's voice shook violently. He told me who my real father is. Atticus and I looked at each other. Kester, I whispered, listen to me. Just breathe. But he wasn't listening. He said my whole life was built on lies. That I was his puppet. That he chose me. That my father, your father, Janetta, wasn't even my father. His voice cracked into pieces. He said my mother was paid to disappear. A shiver ran through me. Kester, where are you right now? Atticus asked. I'm still in Latham's study, he whispered. I found another tape, with my name on it. My pulse spiked. Do not play it, Atticus snapped. Kester, don't touch anything else in that house. Kester's breath hitched. He told me one more thing, Janetta. What? I whispered. That the night your mother died, he said I was there. My blood turned cold. Kester, listen to me, I said, my voice trembling. Come back. We can talk. No, he whispered. No, I need to know what's on this tape. Kester, don't, I begged. But I heard the click of the recorder. Then silence. Then a man's voice boomed in the background. Deep, cold, Latham Creedmoor. Kester, step away from that cabinet. Kester gasped. Janetta, he whispered, he's coming toward me. The line crackled. Janetta, he locked the door. A muffled struggle. A crash. Then the call cut off. Atticus jumped to his feet. Janetta, we have to go. Now. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely stand. We have to call the police. No time, Atticus said. By the time they get there, it could be too late. He grabbed his keys and we ran out of the diner. The black SUV was gone. We drove toward Latham's estate in silence, my mind racing with horrible possibilities. Kester was trapped in that house with a man who had manipulated him his entire life. A man who had killed my mother. A man who would do anything to protect his secrets. When we pulled up to Latham's property, the gates were open. That wasn't normal. Atticus parked the car and we approached the house cautiously. The front door was slightly ajar. Atticus pushed it open slowly. Kester? I called out. No answer. We stepped inside. The house was silent except for the ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway. Atticus led me toward the study. The door was closed. He knocked. Kester? Latham? Still nothing. He turned the handle. It was unlocked. We pushed the door open and my heart stopped. Kester was sitting on the floor, his back against the wall, tears streaming down his face. In his hands was a cassette tape. Latham was nowhere to be seen. Kester, I whispered, rushing to him. Are you okay? He looked up at me with hollow eyes. I played it, he said. I heard everything. Heard what? I asked. He held up the tape. My father, your father, he recorded Latham confessing. Confessing to everything. To killing your mother. To manipulating me. To using Uncle Ferris. His voice broke. Janetta, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what I was doing that night. I was drunk. Latham gave me something, told me to scare her, told me she was ruining everything. I felt tears streaming down my face. Kester, where is Latham now? He shook his head. He ran. When I played the tape, he realized it was over. He just ran. Atticus pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. But before he could dial, we heard footsteps behind us. We turned. Latham Creedmoor stood in the doorway, his face twisted with rage. You had to keep digging, he snarled at me. You couldn't just take your dollar and disappear. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding. You killed my mother. Latham's eyes were cold. Your mother was a liability. She found out about the money I was moving through your father's business. She was going to expose me. So you murdered her, I said, my voice shaking. I did what I had to do, he said. And I would do it again. Atticus stepped forward. Latham, the police are on their way. It's over. Latham laughed bitterly. Over? You think this is over? He reached into his jacket. Atticus lunged at him. They struggled. I heard a gunshot. I screamed. Atticus stumbled back, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped through his fingers. Kester scrambled to his feet. No, he shouted. Latham pointed the gun at me. This is your fault, Janetta. All of this. Your father should have left well enough alone. My mind raced. I had to keep him talking. Why did you do it? Why did you use Kester? Latham's expression twisted. Because he was easy. His mother owed me money. I offered to clear her debt if she gave me her son. Raised him myself. Shaped him into exactly what I needed. Kester let out a broken sob. You bought me? Latham didn't even look at him. You were an investment, nothing more. Sirens wailed in the distance. Latham's eyes darted toward the window. This isn't over, he snarled. He turned and ran. Kester started to follow, but I grabbed his arm. Let him go, I said. The police will catch him. Atticus was pale, his breathing shallow. I pressed my hand against his wound. Stay with me, Atticus. He nodded weakly. The sirens grew louder. Within minutes, the house was swarming with police and paramedics. They took Atticus away on a stretcher. I gave my statement to the officers, telling them everything. About the recording, about Latham, about my mother's murder. They listened carefully, taking notes. Kester sat on the porch steps, his head in his hands. I walked over and sat beside him. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Janetta. I looked at him, this broken man who had been manipulated his entire life. It wasn't your fault, I said quietly. Latham used you. I was there, he said, his voice cracking. I was there the night your mother died. Even if I didn't understand what was happening, I was still there. Tears streamed down his face. How can you ever forgive me? I took a deep breath. Because you didn't know, and because my father knew. That's why he left you the estate. He knew you were a victim too. Kester looked at me in shock. What? The will, I said. It wasn't just about humiliating me. It was about protecting both of us. He knew if he left everything to you, Latham would come after you. And if he left everything to me, Latham would come after me. So he split us up to keep us both alive long enough for the truth to come out. Kester stared at me, his eyes filled with tears. He was protecting us? I nodded. He was protecting us. A police officer approached. Ms. Hale, we found Latham Creedmoor attempting to flee the country. He's been arrested. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. The officer nodded. We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to give a full statement. We're reopening your mother's case. I felt a weight lift off my chest. After all these years, my mother would finally get justice. Kester and I drove back to Atticus's office together. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the road. What happens now? Kester asked. I thought about the question. I don't know, I said honestly. But I think we figure it out together. He looked at me, surprised. After everything I did? After everything Latham did, I corrected. You were a child. He was the monster. Kester wiped his eyes. Thank you, Janetta, for not giving up on me. We arrived at the office and found another envelope waiting for us on Atticus's desk. It was sealed with my father's handwriting. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter dated the day before he died. My dear Janetta, if you are reading this, then you have uncovered the truth. I am so sorry for the pain this journey has caused you. I am sorry I could not tell you everything while I was alive. But I needed you to discover it yourself, to see with your own eyes who could be trusted and who could not. Kester is not your enemy. He is a victim, just as you are. Latham Creedmoor is the enemy. He killed your mother. He manipulated your brother. He nearly destroyed our family. But you stopped him. The $1 I left you was never meant to hurt you. It was meant to make you question. To make you dig deeper. To make you find the recordings, the documents, the truth. The real inheritance was always yours. I changed my will in 2005. Everything I own belongs to you. Atticus has the real documents. Trust him. Forgive Kester if you can. And remember that I loved you more than anything in this world. Your father. I folded the letter carefully, tears streaming down my face. Kester read over my shoulder. He forgave me, he whispered. Even after everything. I looked at him. He forgave both of us for things we didn't even do wrong. Atticus was released from the hospital 3 days later. His shoulder would heal, the doctors said. He called me that afternoon. Janetta, I have the real will. Your father left everything to you. The house, the business, the land. All of it. I closed my eyes. Thank you, Atticus, for everything. Your father was a remarkable man, he said. He spent years planning this. He knew exactly how it would unfold. I hung up and looked at Kester, who was sitting across from me in my father's study. What will you do now? I asked him. He shrugged. I don't know. Start over, I guess. Try to become someone my father would be proud of. I smiled. He already was proud of you. That's why he protected you. Kester's eyes filled with tears again. I don't deserve your kindness. Maybe not, I said. But I'm giving it anyway. We sat there in silence, two broken people trying to pick up the pieces of a family shattered by lies. Outside, the sun set over the estate. My estate now, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly free. In the end, I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because the truth waited for me, patiently, quietly, the way my father always did. I spent years thinking I was the forgotten daughter, the one left with nothing but a single dollar. But that dollar wasn't an insult. It was a signal, a message from a man who knew my heart, even after death. He didn't leave me with wealth. He left me with proof. Proof of who loved me, and who only pretended to. So I walked away that day not with revenge, but with clarity, and my life finally returned to me. And to anyone listening who's ever been betrayed by their own blood, remember this. Sometimes the greatest justice isn't what you take back. It's what they lose when the truth finally speaks. Now to the lovely viewers of this channel. Got a story? Let's tell it together. Here on this channel, your voice matters. If you have a personal story, a revenge moment, a betrayal twist, or even an idea that you think would make our narrative sharper, more emotional, or more entertaining, share it with us. Tell us what themes you want more of. What twists keep you hooked? What parts of our stories hit you the hardest? Or what you'd love to hear next? Drop your thoughts, stories, and suggestions in the comments below. Let's build this amazing community together, one powerful story at a time. Your story could be the next one featured. Don't be shy, we're listening. And we would always respond.